very warm and good evening to everyone. Very warm welcome to all. And I really must appreciate all the participants who are joining here today with all the difficulties with the electricity supply and all. And before we start the session, I would like to welcome our resource person today, Professor Kalana Maduwage. He's a professor at the Department of Biochemistry at the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Peradeniya. And also all the participants from various parts of the country and maybe sometime from overseas also. Very good evening and warm welcome to everyone. And as the 74th President of SLVA and the Executive Committee, I would like to extend my gratitude to the resource person who has been
Susanto, you are mistakenly you are muted from my side actually. Again, can you unmute?
Is it clear now?
Yeah.
Did you hear from the beginning? Or
we can hear. Actually, that is I'm handling this one. Or actually, this is mistakenly actually muted. Actually, your side also.
Okay. No problem. Right. This is as our secretary mentioned that this is the series webinar series for the scientific writing. Actually, we decided to have few sessions over virtual platform and then to invite all the participants to physically attend and then to do some practical sessions at the end of this session. And there will be about 4 or 5 webinars and about 2 practical sessions. And our chairperson of the scientific writing committee is Professor Neil Allas. Thank you for arranging all the links and the Zoom link and also the coordinating with the resource persons. And today, actually, we are going to discuss about the abstract writing, because abstract is very important. In our layman language, we see when we go to find a fiance, you first look at the face. So then you try to understand the basic features of the fiance. Then only you will decide whether to continue or not. So like that, when you are writing a good abstract, then it is a conscious summary of an academic text like a journal article or a dissertation. And there are 2 main purposes, like it will help to potential readers to determine the relevance of the your paper for their own research, and also to communicate your key finding to those who don't have time to read the whole paper. So abstract is often indexed along with keywords like academic database, so make your work more easily findable. Since abstract is the first thing any reader, any reader see, it's important and it's clearly, accurately summarize the content of your paper. So I know when you have very good knowledge on abstract writing, your paper will be most probably accepted by the scientific committee whenever you present your abstract to the particular committee. And with my experience, I know there are some doctors who are having good research ability, but based on the abstract writing ability, that will depend on whether the particular research paper will be accepted by that committee or not. So some doctors are asking whether we need to send extended abstract or normal abstract, 1-page abstract. So today you will understand the importance of writing a good abstract. So that is the objective of this session. And as SLVA, we are in our objective, it is there to develop our knowledge and the skill of our members. So when we follow this constitution, it is one of our objective. So I don't take much time, and I'll invite our Professor Neil Allas to introduce our key resource person today, and hope everyone enjoy the session. All the best. Professor Neil, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Susanta, and very good evening to Professor Kalana, Dr. Susanta, Dr. Samari, and others. So let me introduce our resource person today. He is Professor Kalana Maduwage, working at the Department of Biochemistry, the Faculty of Medicine as Professor in Biochemistry. So if I briefly go through his CV within several minutes as he want to finish this session before 7:30. So it is very difficult to actually summarize this one within 2-3 minutes anyway. So actually he obtained his MBBS in 2007, and he got his M.Phil in 2011, and read his Ph.D. in Australia in 2016. And if I go to his actually main key achievements actually, so before he received his MBBS, he actually secured 3 patents after his name. That was 2001 to 2004. That is amazing actually achievements anyway. So his main key research interest is, in clinical and experiment toxinology. So if I actually connect that toxinology part and his, currently service given to our nation, actually he is maintaining 2 websites, to my knowledge actually. So if you have any trouble, maybe that is very important to let's see one. So if you can't identify snakes actually after snake bite, so you can actually go to this website and just upload the photos here. They provide the 24-hour service and identify all these things and send all the information to you. I think if I'm wrong, actually, please correct me, Professor Kalana. So they have some kind of team actually to give this kind of 24-hour service. Because please use this. I'll actually post that the website to you later. They are the service actually they are giving and testing these toxins. The strength of the toxin present in serum and give to you some clue within actually that. They are giving to the health ministry anyway. Within 48 hours, they are giving their results to the sample coming from any region from Sri Lanka. Anyway, so if I go through his the other achievements, actually he won this in 2016. He won CVCD award. That is the most prestigious and the most highest award that academic in Sri Lanka can receive. So in 2006, actually, that is in 1 year, actually, in his category, actually, only one person can receive this kind of, the award. This is actually, this is actually award of most outstanding young researcher in medicine, dental, and veterinary science, and other allied sciences. Actually, he secured this one. Actually, this is a very good achievement. Actually, that he's having nearly 30 awards after his name. Anyway, so both national and international level awards, and you see. Then if I go to his research career, he's having nearly, you saw that 56 index science citation index publications and 11 non-science index journals. Actually, he's having totally more than 70 publications and nearly 35 international abstracts. And you see 3 orations, actually, invited orations. He has actually given his oration in 3 invited prestigious international locations, and 37 keynote speeches he has delivered during his career. And he has published 5 books, and he is running 2 24-hour online websites to give the service to the nation. And without going to the more details, actually, if I go through all the things, actually, I need nearly 15 minutes maybe. So without going to, I mean, please apologize me without not going actually his long CV. And I invite Professor Kalana Maduwage to start this, I mean, the workshops for presentations.
Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much, Professor Neil, for the very lengthy introduction. And I hope you can clearly hear my voice without any disturbance. And I hope all of you can
Yes, I can hear you.
See my shared presentation.
Yeah, if anybody can't hear his voice, so if anybody can't see the, his slide, please let us know. Okay, please continue.
Right. First of all, very good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this very important webinar as a resource person of your first webinar organized under the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. That is really grateful. And first of all, I would like to express my gratitude towards the organizing committee, because you have clearly understood the importance of scientific writing and the dissemination of this skill to the committee members, and that is very important. On top of everything, writing an abstract in a proper way is very important than writing a research paper. I will explain during my talk, and let's start the talk. First of all, the abstract looks like a swimsuit of a female. It's like a bikini, right? The bikini should cover the most important aspect, right? Therefore, likewise, your abstract also should cover every vital part of what you have done under the research. Not only that, it should be very small, precise, and by the size, it should be the minimum in size. And finally, abstract should attract all the readers and the audience, right? That is why I don't have any other better example to explain the importance of abstract is quite similar to the bikini, right? Remember that. Therefore, then you will remember how abstract is important, right? Now, what is a scientific abstract? It's a very concise presentation of a major component of a scientific study. You may have done your research or experiment during 3 years, 4 years, or a couple of months. Sometimes you may have to condense your findings to a 500-word abstract after finishing 5 years of your PhD. That is a challenge. There's no doubt. Now imagine a work that somebody has done for his or her PhD for last 5 or 6 years. Condensed into 500 words. It is not easy. Writing a conventional thesis or a couple of major papers is easy. Easier than condense your findings into the 500-word abstract. Not only that, that abstract should include the background, hypotheses, objectives, methodology, in addition to what you have found, and you have to discuss and you have to give the conclusion. Therefore, writing a good abstract is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. And this writing the scientific abstract, which include the purpose, methods, and finding. In lay term, I use the purpose here. That means you have to put introduction, justification, and objectives and hypotheses under the word of purpose. I will come back to the proper definition of all those things in the later part of the talk. And then you have to briefly describe the method you followed and your findings. It's a condensed version of a full paper, or it may be a condensed version of a couple of papers. If you are going to write an abstract of your M.Phil thesis or a Ph.D. thesis, it's a condensed version of many papers, many scientific papers. Therefore, it is not easy. And this is the mostly widely distributed piece of information among the scientists. Journal articles also distribute nowadays because of the electronic media and the internet. But only the interested people desire to read the full paper, but most of them first try to focus their attention to the abstract. Therefore, there's no doubt abstract is the widely distributed piece of information among the scientists. Not only scientists, even with the lay people. You know, the scientists find their discoveries, probably the scientific writers and the journalists write what we found by our research to the general public. Therefore, the journalists and the scientific writers first give their attention based on our abstract. Probably these journalists and scientific writers, they are not competent to understand the content of the full journal article. Therefore, it is important for them to go through the abstract and value what we have done and determine whether it is important to disseminate to the general public or not. That is why nowadays, most of the good scientific journals, they ask to submit 2 abstracts. One for the scientific committee, that is the scientific abstract. Second one is abstract in lay term or abstract for lay people. Today, I'm only going to discuss about the writing a scientific abstract, but abstract is the most widely distributed among not only scientists, but among the scientific writers, journalists, and the lay people. It's the commonest way of scientific communication. If you go to a conference presentation, you can present it by a poster presentation or by oral presentation. But the linkage, the bridge between the scientists and the organizers are linked by the submitting abstract. The abstract will be evaluated by the reviewing committee or the scientific committee of the organizing panel, and they will select whether this is good enough to do deliver as an oral presentation or a poster presentation or reject. Therefore, this is the commonest and the most important way of scientific communication among the scientific society as well. And this is the motivational factor to read the full paper. If someone is not interested about abstract, he's not going to read about the full paper. Why somebody is going to read the full paper, download the full paper, and sometimes we have to pay for the full paper download. Therefore, this is the only motivational factor to read the full paper. That depends on how many citations you are going to have for your publication, completely depend on the quality of your scientific abstract. Therefore, abstract is the most important component of your discovery in the sense of dissemination of the knowledge to the other people, not the full paper. Abstract is at the top. And abstract would be able to understand the content within a very short period of time. Therefore, most of the abstract determine the limiting number of words and tables and figures and things. Most of the abstract restrict their word count for 500, but some abstract which may be 200 and 250. And abstract is very important for the search for the relevant articles, study the databases. Now, if you are going to do a review article or systematic review study, the first you have to go through the abstract comes as a result of searching the databases. According to the content of the abstract, then you will decide whether this abstract is relevant to my study. Then only you can search for the full journal article. There's no doubt, therefore, the scientific abstract is the most important way of communicating what you have found to the other people, including the scientific community plus the non-scientific community. And good authors put a very important effort, like a substantial effort, to craft in their abstract. Don't think because it's 500 words or 250 words. No, it is very difficult to write a good abstract. Every good author, scientific writer, put their substantial effort to finalize their abstract. Sometimes a single abstract may be circulated 5 or 6 times among the group of investigators. Therefore, if you are ready to submit an abstract for a conference, my advice is try to prepare the first draft of the abstract at least 2 weeks ago. I know most of the Sri Lankan scientists and academics, they write abstract before the night before the deadline. That is why their abstract are not very attractive, even though their findings are very promising and very important. Their abstract, the writing of the abstract is sometimes not up to the level that I commonly see in IPERS and other regional conferences, including most of the Sri Lankan scientific proceedings, conference proceedings have not a good quality abstract. Therefore, the reason is the scientists and the investigators have not understood the importance of abstract. Sometimes one good abstract may attract foreign grants, foreign scientists, foreign collaborations. Therefore, you have to pay much more attention about abstract writing, like what you are going to do in the journal article. It's like an advertisement for the full paper or what you have found. It's like an advertisement for the scientific community, right? Your advertisement should attract the people, and it should explain what you have found in an effective way, and it should be precise, right? All these characters should be there in your abstract. Consider it as an advertisement for what you have done for your experiment. Often only the section of the paper that is read and usually determine whether the reader download or reads the rest of the paper. If the abstract is not relevant, if the abstract is not interesting, nobody will download your paper and interested to read the full paper. Therefore, writing abstract is quite important. An abstract, if you are going to submit an abstract for the conference presentation, abstract will determine whether it's accepted or not accepted, or whether it's going to be presented at oral presentation or poster presentation. I have seen many good publications, good research findings are ended up as posters. The only reason is they have submitted their abstract in a poor quality. The quality of the abstract will determine whether your research finding is important for present as an oral presentation or poster presentation or reject. It's a good predictor of the quality of the paper or the talk. If somebody has published a good abstract, published a good abstract in a conference proceeding or a conference book, that will predict the quality of the paper or the quality of the talk. Many international scientists, when they attempt to these conferences, international conferences, usually they go through these abstract the day before their actual presentations or the talk. They determine which talk I'm going to sit based on the quality of the abstract and the information written in the abstract. Therefore, abstract will determine the rest of the journey of what you have found. Abstract should reflect all the parts of your paper, but in a shortened form. It should represent and reflect everything in your paper in a concise manner. It's a log scale. It's similar to the log scale of the numerical number that we used. It's a condensed form of everything what you have done. A person reading only your abstract should be able to understand why you have conducted this study, how you have conducted this study, what you have found, and why it is important for the field. That the most simplest way that I can explain why there's a concept or why there's a practice of writing abstract in science. If your abstract can't understand why you have conducted this study and how you have conducted this study and what you have found and why it is important for the field, you have not written a nice abstract. Always, when you finish your abstract, even before 1 minute the submission of your abstract, just relax and think back whether you have achieved all these 4 aspects in your abstract. If at least one of these things are not in your abstract, that indicate you haven't done the proper job. Rewrite or reconsider the revision of your abstract. And it's report only the number of numbers that represent the most important information. I have seen some abstract full of numbers, full of confidence intervals, SD values, ranges, interquartile values. But when you are writing an abstract, you have to report the numbers, which is the most important figures, not everything, because abstract is abstract. Everybody understands that the authors have no provision to write everything that they have found within the 250 or 500 words. Therefore, the key findings can be incorporated with the numbers. Other things you can mention in sentences. It's based on the type of a study, of course. Right. There are 4 key areas you should include in an abstract. What problem did you study and why it is important? That indicate a background of the study. How you motivated, what is the motivation behind the study, or the specific questions or hypotheses you have addressed. This can be done by 2 sentences or 3 sentences or 4 sentences maximum. 1 sentence for the background, another sentence for the motivation, and another sentence for the hypothesis or the question that you are going to address. Maximum 3 sentences or 4 sentences, you should finish what problem did you study and why it is important. And I have seen some abstract have spent 1/3 or more than half of the abstract is actually the background and justification and the motivation and introduction information. That is what is called imbalanced abstract. By just looking at the abstract, we can see this person has no experience of writing abstract. Abstract writing should be practiced. The proper abstract writing will take time. That skill will develop over the time. While you are writing more and more abstract, your writing skills will be developed. English is important, but that is not the only factor which determine the good abstract. I have seen some English speaking people, they write abstract, but it's not in a good quality. Therefore, English is important, but the scientific knowledge is important, but writing an abstract depends on the practice and it's a skill. It will not develop within overnight. You have to write more and more abstract, even to practice, not to present somewhere, and correct it by or commented it by the known person to the field. That is why the supervisor's role is very important. Supervisors should trim and edit this abstract maybe 20 times, 30 times. Even though it's 300-word abstract, sometimes the one abstract should circulate here and there through the emails, maybe 10 or 20 times, and then only it will come into a nice shape to up to the level of submission. And then the second area, what methods did you use to study the problem? And here we are not going to discuss about specific equipment, specific tools that you are going to make. This is the overview of your methodology. If this is a 300-word abstract, I would not write more than 2 sentences to describe the methodology. Was it a field of study or a laboratory experiment? This is an in vivo study or in vitro study or a clinical study, or just a randomized control trial, whether this is a questionnaire-based study, whether it's a cohort study, that has to be there. This is a prospective study or retrospective study, that information should be there. What experiment treatment were applied? Basically, you have to explain, we use high performance liquid chromatography or electrophoresis just by 1 or 2 sentences. Generally, you want to keep this method section very brief. Most of the time, we can trim the methodology sections in Sri Lankan scientists, because Sri Lankan scientists, most of the academics, they're prone to describe the method section in detail in a limited word count abstract. In my understanding, even though it's a 500 words abstract, you should restrict the methodology section to 2 sentences maximum. Third one, what were your key findings? Only the main finding, and list not more than 2 or 3 points. You can't explain all your findings in a 300 word or 500 word abstract. Out of the many findings, as a team, you have to decide what are the key 2 or 3 important points, important findings I should present in an abstract, right? Don't struggle to put all the findings condensed into the abstract, which will not work. Therefore, think and discuss thoroughly and determine what are the key findings we are going to list in this abstract. not everything. And then the fourth one, what did you conclude based on these findings and what are the broader implications? This is, in other words, the scientific terms. This is a conclusion section, and you have to discuss the relevance of your findings to the practical setting, which include the implications. And what is new or innovative about your finding? If you have done this for the first time in the world, you can discuss. This is the first description of this disease. This is the first description of first finding of randomized control study in the world, which has these practical applications in the field of veterinary sciences. And this, the effect of this drug can be used to treat the tuberculosis of elephants or so and so. And you have to discuss about the most important implication or practical application based on your conclusion. And I would say the last section can be finished within 2 sentences maximum. The third section, what your key findings, can be explained by maybe 5 sentences, 6 sentences, 7 sentences based on the word count of the abstract. If you have not covered any of these 4 areas under your abstract is not a very good abstract. Scientific abstracts are important in conferences. Sometimes scientific abstract present in conferences as text in the conference proceedings, and sometimes based on your scientific abstract, it will be selected for the oral presentation or platform presentation, and sometimes your conference presentation, your abstract will be selected for the poster presentation, and poster presentation is also a kind of scientific abstract. I will come back to at the latter part of this talk. Scientific abstract is an integral part of every journal article. Even though you are writing a case report, abstract should be there. Therefore, every journal article should have a very nice abstract. And there are some other abstract you have to write for your thesis or dissertations in M.Phils, Ph.D, and MScs. That is where you have to write the abstract. And nowadays we see in many international online journals, especially online journals, they request the graphical abstract. Not only graphical abstract, some online journals, they request video abstracts. And therefore they will come more and more in the future. Therefore you have to ready for present what your findings as graphical abstracts and video abstract. I will come back to at the latter part of this talk. And sometimes now you have to write highlights of the full article. It's a kind of abstract. It's not a routine or conventional abstract. If you submit your article to the SLVA journals, and SLVA journal, every SLVA journal, they ask to write highlights of your full article, maybe by very short 4 or 5 bullet points. And this is quite challenging. Writing highlights, it's a part of the scientific abstract. It's a different kind of abstract. A good abstract should be concise, but complete and short. And it's the most powerful way to communicate what you have found to the audience or to the reader. Always remember, your abstract should be complete, concise, short, and it's a powerful tool of communication. And there are different types of abstracts we find in journal articles and conference papers. One such type is structured abstract. Structured abstract, the guidelines of abstract writing or the author's guideline will clearly determine the rules and regulations of their abstract. Structured abstract, which has divided the sections into different subheadings: title, authors and affiliation, introduction, background and problem. One conference will advertise or put it as an introduction, or which is similar to background, not exactly, or the problem. And then the objective, it's another subheading. Method, another subheading. Results, plus or minus discussion, or discussion and conclusion maybe in another section. Some abstract conferences, they request to put references, plus or minus 1 or 2 references. Some abstract, they ask to submit one table and 1 figure. This is what is called structured abstract. I will show you an example. Now, this is a very lengthy abstract we published in European Toxicology conference. And now you can see in this abstract, it has been divided into several subheadings. The abstract has been divided and structured as objectives, methods, results, and conclusion. Of course, this has a high word count, I think maybe 1,000 word counts. Now you can see there's no introduction, no problem, no background information. They have just asked to write the objective, and then the method, then the results, conclusion. See what I have put, how many number of words as a percentage I have put under the results. Nearly half of the word count I have spent to write the results. Objectives, 2 sentences. Methods, 3 sentences maximum, 3 or 4 sentences. Conclusion, another 2 or 3 sentences. But the results, I have put many results as much as possible, because this has a high number of word count. But most of the Sri Lankan conferences and journal articles, usually it's restricted to 500 word count. Now, this is one way of how we can structure the abstract. First, follow the guidelines of the conference organizers or the journal article to write the abstract, whether they want a structured abstract or an unstructured abstract. This is the structured abstract published in PubMed. You can see abstract has divided into background, methodology, and principal findings as a one section, and the conclusion. See, conclusion is one sentence. Basically, the 2 sentences, and the methodology and the principal findings are the majority of the word count is spent for. Background, just 1 sentence. And then the unstructured abstract. And nowadays, most of the conference organizers and the journal articles, they request structured abstract, but still many journals and conferences, they request unstructured abstract. Title, authors, and affiliations are common. All other components are there, but no subdivision. You don't need to mention, you don't need to divide the sections into background, objectives, methodology, results, and conclusion. And this is an example for unstructured abstract. Now we can see I have squared it to show the different sections, but there are no subheadings. The first area is the background information and hypotheses and the objectives. This study aimed to investigate the possible differences of so and so. And then the second square, I have mentioned the methodology by 2 sentences. The last square shows where I have put the results, discussion, and conclusion. This is the routine format of the unstructured abstract. Therefore, first of all, before you write the abstract, you carefully read the guidelines for the authors and check whether you have to write the structured abstract or the unstructured abstract. This is another example of unstructured abstract published in PubMed. You can see is as summary. Under the subheading of summary, that's everything is there. Background, hypothesis, method, results, conclusion, and discussion is everything is packed into one single paragraph. This is an unstructured abstract published in PubMed. That's why I told you to carefully follow the conference guidelines or the journal guidelines before you write the abstract, and take those guidelines, rules, and regulation into a head. First, check whether it's a structured or unstructured abstract, then the word count, and then consider about the formatting, the capitalization, underlining, bold, the references, citing reference or not, the word count of the title, the word count of the total abstract, and the format of the author's name, whether it's name with initials or initials with name, or the full name, or names into the author's name only with 2 words or something like that. One of the main reason for rejecting our abstract in international conferences, mainly the prestigious international conferences, are due to not following the conference guidelines. You may have done a nice work, you may have done a nice study, and your findings may be promising and optimum finding, but your abstract writing may not be perfect. Just by looking at the abstract, most of the reviewers, they reject, because they are very dislike when you have not followed the conference guidelines regarding the abstract writing. Therefore, I remind you again and again, put your maximum effort to carve your abstract in a nicer way. That is, of course, it's an investment. It's a very important, and it's worth to do. Therefore, writing a good abstract needs time, needs a lot of editing and trimming, and a lot of guidance from the seniors. Therefore, writing an abstract is an absolute challenge. Sometimes when you write a good abstract, according to the conference guideline, there's a high chance to be selected for oral presentation. An allocation of the word count to the sections, if it is a structured abstract or an unstructured abstract, you have to vaguely think about how many words I'm going to put into the objectives, how many words, how many sentences I'm going to put under the methodology. Of course, it is again determined by the total word count of the abstract. If it is 200 word or 250 word, that's a real challenge, but it's 500 word, you have some freedom to play with. In my opinion, if it is a 250 word abstract, 1/10 sentence for the objective, not more than that. Maximum 1 or 2 sentence for the methodology. 1 sentence for the introduction, no justification. And results, you can spend approximately 1/3 or even up to half of the word count. Discussion and conclusion, another 1/3. And based on the number of word count, you have to vaguely think about how many sentences I am going to put under each of the subheading. I'm going to discuss some few tips to write a good abstract. Avoid the use of words such as might, may, could, seems to be, could be, maybe, might be, like vague terms. Even when you are writing journal articles, you try your best to avoid these vague terms, because all these vague terms like might be means it might not be, maybe mean it may not be, could be, could not be. And don't give any vagueness, especially when you are writing an abstract. Science shouldn't have vagueness, especially scientific writing. You can write, it doesn't mean 100% of the statistical significance should be there. That's not the thing. If it is statistically significant, it is statistically significant. That doesn't mean 100% of the treated group has benefits and 100% of the non-treated group has failed. All of us, all the scientific community knows everything in science is not perfect, not 100%. But don't use might, may, or could, or seems to be. This is a one major error I have commonly seen in Sri Lankan abstract writers. They use, it might explain the relationship between so and so. It might reduce the blood pressure of the treated group of rabbits compared with the untreated group. No, if your finding shows it reduces the blood pressure among the rabbits, you clearly mention it. The treated group of rabbits, blood pressure has significantly dropped. Blood pressure is significantly dropped. Therefore, don't try to use, avoid as much as possible of using might, may, could, seems to be, even at the journal articles. Use the most appropriate word. Sometimes, because English is not our first language, we don't know the subtle differences of different English words that we use in the scientific writing. This is common in journal articles, but it is more common, very important in abstract writing. When you use inappropriate word to describe something, the meaning will be completely different to the reader. Therefore, if you are not sure about the appropriate word that you are going to use for that to describe something, use the thesaurus or the synonyms in Google to find out the best word. That is why I told you, even though it's 250 abstract, it will take time. You have to carefully select the most appropriate word in the English language to describe what you want to describe in the abstract. Because one word, inappropriate one word, can completely mislead the readers and the reviewers or the evaluations. Therefore, if you are not sure about the word that you used, always check the synonyms, and you will definitely find a better term if you are in a If you are not confident about the word that you use, you will find a definitely different synonym, a good synonym, the best fit synonym than what you have used. Always try to use active voice. Even when you are writing the journal article, active voice is much more better than the passive voice. As an example, you can clearly mention, we studied 10 patients with pneumonia. It is much more better than 10 patients with pneumonia were studied. Always write, we studied, I studied, investigators studied. Active voice. Always active voice is so close to the reader, so close to the reviewers or the evaluator. Your finding will reach to the reader in an effective way when you use active voice than in the passive voice, because you have done that. You should explain that I have done that. We studied, we give the normal saline, we give this drug. Active voice is very powerful way in English language than the passive voice. Avoid starting, sorry for the spelling mistakes here. Avoid starting the sentences with numeric value. I have seen this issue, how the students and other academics are struggling to present their numeric values and figures in the sentence. Usually they start with 14% of the treated group is something like that, but you can't start a sentence in English language by a numerical value. And you have to start with either 14 by FOURTEN, or you have to study it in a different way. You have to restructure the wording of your sentence. And use the full term when you use it at the first time. International Normalized Ratio, if you want to discuss INR, PT for prothrombin time. And because they are not standard abbreviations used in the science, but grams, kilograms, milligrams, micrograms, nanograms you can use, because there is internationally valid familiar standard abbreviations. Right, because English is quite distant to us. We are not exceptionally good in English writing. My advice is try to condense one thought per sentence in the abstract. Sometimes you can connect two thoughts in a one abstract, one sentence by putting the word and or comma. But don't complex your sentence, especially in the abstract. That will create a distance of passing the message to the readers or the reviewers. Therefore, it's very comfortable to the reader if you can confine one thought per sentence, maximum 2 thoughts per sentence. Carefully eliminate the unnecessary words. Just read 10 times before you submit the abstract, whether you have put any unnecessary words. The commonly used unnecessary words are very, very much, severe. You want to highlight what you have found. You want to highlight and give more value by adding these extra strength words. Very small, negligible, severe. No, it's effective. It drops. The reader will understand and determine whether it is severely depressed or moderately depressed or mildly depressed by the p-values or by the values that you are going to give. Therefore, you don't need to use these severely, severe, mildly, completely. Avoid these extra words. They will not add anything more into your abstract. Always try to use the correct grammar, especially when you are submitting the abstract for the international conferences. They are very particular about grammar, and cohesion is also very important, especially when you are writing the discussion. The cohesion should be there. In other words, furthermore, and my results concludes something like that, that cohesion should be there in between the different sentences. Then it's easy to read, and the reader will be more happy and comfortable to understand what you have written in the abstract. Avoid repetition of the same word. There's another common mistake the Sri Lankan scientist continues, the repetition of the word. They repeat the same word, statistically significant, p-value, p-value, and p-value, and something like that. Always follow these tips. That's about the text abstract. And this is another abstract. This is a post abstract that I have presented in Australia during my PhD. There's a reason why I want to show this abstract to you, because this abstract was awarded as the best abstract presentation by Australian Medical Association in 2014. And the main thing, I have put real effort to finalize this abstract. This abstract is edited by, I think, 15 times by all the supervisors and my team, right? You can see the colors, you can see the different sections, you can see the pictures, you can see the size of the font, and everything is here. I have put some figures, tables, and then figures, and it has everything, and it has references also. That may be the reason they have selected my abstract as the best abstract. And at the end of this presentation, I think you can have the recording. If you are going to design a post abstract for a conference proceeding, I hope this will help. But again, you have to consider the guidelines given by the conference organizers. And this is another abstract that we presented. It's a different abstract, now you can see, but it's very concise. There's an introduction and methodology section, and the results section. I have concised my results into 2 tables, not more than that. Everything what I have found condensed into 2 tables, and then the conclusions in different bullet points, right? A sequence of writing an abstract. When you want to write an abstract, from where you are going to start? First, you want to study the guidelines given by the conference proceedings, conference guideline, or the organizing committee, or the journal article, the journal. First, I would write objectives. First, to write objectives. What you have done in this study. That is the objective, by a single sentence, or maximum 2. It depends on the number of word counts. Then you write the overall methodology. To achieve the objective that you have written, what methodology you have been used. Then you write the results, right? After the methodology, you know what you have to write the results, and then after the results, you can finish the conclusion and the discussion points. Then you think back about the introduction according to the objectives and the results, and justify why you have done this study. Most of the time, what we used to start writing the abstract by introduction and justification. But in my understanding, what I followed, I started abstract writing, or even a journal article writing. I started with the objectives, and then the method, results, and conclusion, and then I will go back to the introduction, and then according to the results and conclusion and discussion point, I will trim the introduction and justification. And there's another type of abstract. This is quite different, the full research article abstract, the case report abstract. I think this is very relevant to the veterinary medicine as well. You have to write the case chronologically, use most of the words to describe the case. And very brief introduction, sometimes maximum 1 or 2 sentences. This is the first case report present in the world. This is the first first presenting information under this disease condition in rabbits or elephants or cows. Conclusion, 1 sentence. Therefore, case report abstract writing is quite different, and most of the words you can allocate to describe the case into a chronological order. This is the unstructured abstract, a case report published in PubMed. You can see no introduction, just the case report, because this has a very limited number of words. I think it is less than 150 or 200 words. Therefore, abstract has straight away started. A 65-year-old previously healthy farmer developed thrombotic microangiopathy, comprising the triad of acute kidney injury, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia by Hypnalizara bite. Something like that. Sometimes case report abstract straight away jump into the case and describe the case. And graphical abstract, it's now the requirement to submit for most of the journals, including the SLVA publications. Graphically, you have to present the summary of your findings and methodology as well. And this is quite challenging. The same research findings can be present in completely different graphical abstract. Therefore, there's no single way of formulating a graphical abstract. If I write a graphical abstract based on a paper, another person can write a completely different graphical abstract based on the same paper, right? But you have the freedom to use a lot of diagrams, molecular structures, flow charts, figures, and the key finding images of the graphical abstract. And then last, I will discuss about the keywords, because there are some journals and conferences, they ask to put keywords to put them into the search strategies or the search term in their indexes and other databases. Keyword search results are directly related to the quality of the keyword. Like whether your research article or the abstract is going to be cited depends on the keyword that you are going to put into the abstract or the journal article. Therefore, determining your keywords is a key factor about your citations. If you have put a wrong or the inappropriate keywords into your journal article or the abstract, the chances of citing your research finding is less, which include your technique and specific methodology. If you use HPLC, use HPLC. If you use electrophoresis, you put electrophoresis. Focus on the main topic of your research. And sometimes the word that you use in the title is invariably included into the search terms. Therefore, most of the time you have the freedom, you have the provision to use the other words as keywords other than the words that you used in the title. You can inquire that from the conference organizers or in the guidelines. Avoid keywords that are only one word. Like sometimes I have seen Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka, malaria, snake. I usually use snake bite, snake envenomation, snake antivenom, something like that. Then it's considered as a phrases, very specific phrases. Then those phrases will be easily appeared when somebody is going to search for your study. Avoid overlapping keywords in your title and those in your keywords list. Most of the time, the title, the word that you used in the title, under the title, is anyway considered for keywords in the database search. Follow the journal guidelines when selecting keywords. Example, US National Library of Medicine, collection of medical subjects, headings, mesh keywords, and US NLM collection keywords. There are different ways how you can formulate the keywords. Perform keyword search before submitting your article. You can search for keywords. You write the key, you use the keywords that you are going to put into the abstract or the journal article and do the search in the Google or in Medline or any kind of PubMed or something. Just check whether you can find out the similar studies to what you are going to present by using those keywords. If you find the similar kind of studies, then your keywords are almost okay. I think this is my last slide. I hope I have discussed at least some important aspect of abstract writing during the last couple of minutes. That's I think 35-40 minutes. If you have any question, I would be happy to take some questions and try to answer based on my capacity. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kalana, for very informative presentation. And I hope actually everybody get, the very basic, the good, precise idea about how to write an abstract. Okay. So if everyone, if the participants are having some kind of questions, they can directly actually raise here. So this forum is now open for the questions and discussions. So the participants now can ask questions actually. Okay, until that actually. So I would like to raise a different thing, Professor Kalana actually. So I know you have the very, impressive research career. So the other thing actually I want to say is actually to encourage the participants. When you were 37 years, you became a professor. That is a record in university and record in the medical faculty here. So how this research career, or to what extent this research career, your research career actually helpful for this kind of achievement?
It's an unexpected question, Professor Neil. I think I will try to give an answer for that. And yes, as you had described, I think I submitted my promotion application at the 36 of age, 36, and then I got promoted at 37. At the age of 37, I promoted as the full professor. And the main reason what I can think about, I was very hungry. I am very hungry and thirsty on medical research. When somebody is hungry and thirsty, that person will search for food and water irrespective of all the obstacles in front of that person. If somebody is thirsty, that person doesn't need to care about the houses, cars, clothes, and family and other things. I'm not disregarding my family, but what I feel, if somebody has the real inspiration and passion on medical research or research in any field, that person will find a way to achieve that. Therefore, as I think as university academics and university lecturers and teachers, what we have to inculcate among our youngsters, students, we have to inspire our researchers and scientists to do research. When we trigger the students, when we inspire the student, and when we passionate our student to medical research, they will find the way to go. It is much more important, based on my understanding, it is much more important than teaching the scientific methodology, research methodology, statistics, epidemiology, and little things. When somebody get triggered and inspired and passionate by medical research or research in any field, that person will achieve the top within their lifetime. I think that is the simplest way that I can explain and answer, Professor Neil.
I think Dr. Vijayasiri is having a question. He raised his hand. Dr. Vijayasiri?
Yeah. Thank you giving the opportunity. And let me ask my question. Please excuse me, may I asking the stupid question? If I am not misunderstood, as a professor said, the abstract should be understandable for the scientists as well as the general. In that case, let's say if someone can write abstract using most of, let's say, scientific and medical or the statistical terms, which can be understandable for the supervisor, colleagues, and or the group of scientific people. But let's say, as an example, the general topic like COVID, the interesting group may be the huge range. In that case, to understand all the people, in that case, are we, what is the professor's advice to use the terms for the abstract, and it is better to use the general English or using most of terms, and what extent do we careful using that kind of situation in writing the abstract?
Dr. Vijayasiri, thank you very much for raising that question. I think that is very important question, and thank you very much, because that creates me the opportunity to clarify one of the mistake that I have done. Yes, this talk I focus about the scientific abstract writing, and if you are going to write the abstract for conference presentation or a journal article, always use the technical terms, medical terms, the terms that you used in veterinary science. There's no doubt, because our target audience is the relevant scientific community, not the lay people. Even though you are going to publish an abstract on COVID-19, if you are going to present your abstract in a conference or the journal article, always strictly use the technical terms and medical terms and veterinary terms that you used. It is quite different to the abstract that you are writing to the, imagine it's a newsletter abstract, or a abstract to another occasion, like a tea table book or something, like coffee table book or something like that. And in that situation, you can avoid the technical terms as much as possible and try to use the general lay term English. What I was trying to explain at the very beginning, and there are no scientific journalists in Sri Lanka. Professional scientific journalists are not in Sri Lanka, but most of the developed countries, they have professional scientific journalists. And those scientific journalists, they can understand our scientific terms into certain degree, and they usually, they will write the abstract into the lay people after having a thorough discussion with the investigators and the researchers. Therefore, if you are going to write an abstract for the conference or the journal article, please strictly adhere to the technical terms and statistical terms and things. There's no problem. And writing abstract for a lay people, the general public, is completely different. But some journal articles nowadays, especially the PLOS journals, they request to write 2 abstract. One is for the scientific community, other one is for the general public. The PLOS journals, they use this lay term abstract to attract these scientific journalists and lay people and the other administrators who are not in the field of science. Therefore, please, it depends on what is your target. Most of the time we write abstract for the conferences and journal articles. It's a mandatory to use the technical terms. I think I answered your question.
Yeah. Got the point. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay Singha. So sorry for actually pronounce your name, Dr. Vijay Singha. So do others having any other kind of questions? So anyway, until others raise some questions, actually I ask another question. So I know actually maybe you, if you go through your, the profile, you are a review of more than 17, the international journals you work as a reviewer. So sometimes actually, if you go to that, the master or the postgraduate courses in Sri Lanka, normally that maybe the lecturers or resource persons, they sometimes actually advise to write the things in passive voice. So with your experience actually, so do you believe actually, or do you support for this kind of, the advice? And at the same time, I ask another questions. How do you, the beginners, young researchers select precise advisors? So maybe you can use some kind of indexes like H-index. So can you actually describe that kind of thing? Before selecting your advisor is really important, actually, maybe your mentors. So mentor is the important fact actually. And if you combine your, the recent award also actually to encourage these people, that depend with your H-index, you won some award in the University of Peradeniya, the very prestigious award recently. So can you educate these, the young researchers regarding this kind of thing, actually how to select your mentor?
Yeah, the first question, whether you asked Prasanil, whether it's appropriate to use the active voice or the passive voice.
Yes.
There's no hard and fast rule to ask not to use passive voice. But when you read a paragraph which is written in active voice and the same paragraph written in passive voice, anybody can clearly understand the difference of familiarizing that message to you. I think when something is written in active voice is so familiar to the reader and the writer. Writer and reader are emotionally and very close together when something is written in active voice. And always when something written in active voice in the scientific writing, that highlight the investigators have done that. We always write, we concluded, we have found, we followed this methodology. Therefore, which is so highlighting the whole hard work of the research team. Therefore, there's no hard and fast rule not to avoid the passive voice as much as possible. I followed a scientific writing course, which is organized by the Stanford University. And they have given a few tips to write scientific writing. And one of their key tips is writing in active voice as much as possible. That doesn't mean you have to write completely in active voice, but they advise us to use active voice as much as possible. The second question you raised, what is the best way to find the best mentor in the scientific journey or scientific pathway? Yes, it is quite challenging. There are multiple facets you have to consider. The first and the most important thing is your supervisor or the mentor should be familiar and should be relevant to your interested field of study. If you are doing veterinary medicine, your advisor should thorough knowledge on veterinary medicine. If it is a veterinary parasitology, your mentor should be a veterinary parasitologist. That is number one. Number two, what I should consider, the familiarity. That means how quickly you can reach to your supervisor or the mentor. Because sometimes I have seen some supervisors are so distinct to the student, so distant to the student, students are struggling to get an appointment to clarify something or get some advice. They don't respond to the email, they don't answer to their phone calls. The second most important thing is, first, the relevant field. Second one is approachability or and availability. If you have some question, the supervisor should be available to clarify your doubt. The third one is the qualification. Yes, the qualification is important, and the experience and the skills, whether the supervisor has skills and necessary knowledge, and whether he's competent to guide your field of study. I think that is number three. Yeah, I think that those are the three main factors we should consider. And then the whole CV should be screened and find out whether you can review the supervisor or the mentor with the previous students, the peers, and the stories and the messages and the details of the other previous students. The third question you asked about the award that I received. Yes, at the end of this IPER session last year, the UGC is now offering awards for the best researchers in the Sri Lankan university system based on different tiers. There are four tiers. There are 4 tiers. Number 4, the 4th tier is the highest tier. Any scientist who has the H index about 20 is eligible to have the tier 4 research award from the UGC. And I think this time the Peradeniya University, nearly 20 scientists received this award above tier 4 award. I'm happy to say that I'm one of the awardees, as I think I'm the youngest as far as I think. I'm so happy about my faculty and my department and my university.
Is this, I mean, the H index is important to select a mentor for the research?
That's a one factor you have to consider. Yes, that indicate that person has published quite a lot, and always, not only that, his publication are cited in many times, and that H index always indicates how many other scientists have cited your paper. That citations are obviously based on the importance and the implications and applications of that person's research findings. Therefore, H index I consider it as it's not the only way of determining the potential of the scientist, but is one of the best way to assess the potential of a good scientific scholar.
Okay, so Dr. Susanta, do you
Yeah,
need the
Professor, can I ask a question? Because
yes, please.
Yeah, Professor, I'm Susant here.
Yeah.
My question is, some what you call scientists, that is researchers, they do develop this abstract and they forward to the evaluation committee based on the particular session. Then when the evaluation committee reject that due to some other failures or the difficulties in understanding the research importance of that particular subject, is there any way to challenge or request to reconsider that evaluation?
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Susanta, thank you very much for the question. Yes, that frequently we seen in Sri Lankan conferences, and I have seen a really good abstract have been rejected by the reviewing panel or the scientific committee. The main reason for that is maybe the reviewers are not familiar with the content and the field of study. That is number one. Therefore, the scientific committee of the organizing committee should select the most appropriate reviewers or the evaluators to review the particular abstract. That is number one. Yes, if you are so confident about the reviewers' comments, if somebody wants to reject the abstract, that person should give a very clear explanation for the rejection. Because of these reasons, I'm going to reject this. If you have the ability to, if you are confident enough to justify and explain all the failures or the comments, yes, you should write to the reviewers. If you don't know the reviewer, you straight away, most of the time you don't know the reviewer, you straight away write to the chairman of the scientific committee or the president of the conference, and you explain, because of this reason I don't agree with this. If you have the provision to resubmit, you completely explain by maybe 5 or 6 pages you can spend and explain your comments are unfair, which is not true. This is what we have found. Therefore, we strongly believe our abstract is right, our results are accurate. You can always battle. But if the abstract is almost rejected, you will have no chance to resubmit. Therefore, in such situations, you can straight away write to the chairman or the president of the main organizing committee and explain the situation. It's totally fine. Otherwise, I don't mind. I don't like to undermine or discriminate or undervalue my research findings, because I know how much effort I have done. I know I have the confidence about my findings and conclusions. Therefore, I will battle until the last minute. Don't let anybody, especially the unknown reviewer, to undermine your values, undermine your findings. You can battle. If it is completely rejected, or if the president or the chairman is also not considered your justification, you forget about that and submit to another abstract and another conference. That happens in the country. That happens, yes.
So
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Susant. And we have time only for one question, so I have to release Professor Kalana for his next section anyway. So he's having another meeting from 7:30. So do anybody want to ask a question? Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll ask one last simple question. The very question, I'll expecting a very short answer. Anyway, so sometimes actually reviewers okay, chat is there. So one question is there. Thank you, Professor Kalana, and SLVA development system. Can you screenshots? Okay, that's fine. So sometimes reviewers actually, as they are less familiar with the research and the particular line of the track of the research, they are asking extended abstract. How reasonable to ask extended abstract if they don't want to if the conference don't publish this one? Yeah,
some conferences very rarely. I think a couple of years back, Peradeniya also followed this extended abstract submission guideline. I think it didn't work in that way. Most of the reputed international conference, they don't ask to submit the extended abstract. And if the conference main guidelines has not mentioned about extended abstract, as researchers, we are not bound to submit any extended abstracts. You can submit a short abstract like 500 words. And if reviewer requests to submit extended abstract, you can clearly say, no, we are not bound to submit extended abstract because that is not under the abstract writing guideline. You can explain, you can justify or accept or reject the comments of the reviewer. That's totally fine, but you are not bound to submit an extended abstract unless it is mentioned in the abstract writing guidelines. Okay. Reviewers are not authorized to request extended abstracts.
So anyway, I think this is time to conclude this session anyway, due to this time constraint. Actually, thank you very much for your wonderful explanations and wonderful session. And again, I would like to thank you, for giving actually very good idea about this abstract writing to our young researchers. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kalana, Dr. Susantha, and all the participants. I think the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association has nicely started this platform about scientific citing. I think that is really appreciated, and I really like that. And thank you very much for inviting me for this. And if you need my help based on my capacity, I'd be more than happy to do my best for the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you, Professor. And I'm inviting our secretary to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Susantha, our president. Thank you, Professor Kalana, for accepting our invitation to conduct this webinar. And it was very informative webinar, and I am sure all of our participants gain a lot of knowledge and they will in future, I'm sure they will write very good quality abstracts based on your tips, recommendations, and guidelines. So again, I must thank Professor Kalana for giving this valuable presentation despite of your busy schedule. And I hope in future also you will help us to conduct a future webinars and assist Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. Thank you, Professor. And also I would like to thank our Executive Committee member, Professor Neil Lallis, for organizing this webinar and also organizing all the webinars throughout this year for scientific writing. Thank you, Professor. And also thank you, Professor, for giving us this Zoom link to conduct this Zoom session. And also I would like to thank our president and the executive committee members for the help provided for organizing this webinar. Finally, I would like to thank our participants for joining us today. And also I would like to invite them to join our next webinar, which will be held on Sunday, this Sunday, 27th February at 5 o'clock. This will be conducted by our own member, Dr. Viscam. So I hope you all will join our next webinar. And thank you very much and have a very good night. Thank you.